Okay, so let's go ahead and get back into our coverage over the X-Men. And so with that being said, we're going to pick up with Cable once again. Now, guys, real quick, I'm going to tell y'all that this Cable story is pretty interesting. But here's the problem though, because the next story that follows right after this one, we can't do. It's one of those storylines where Marvel has not re-released, online, nor put it in a trade somewhere for me to collect. So unfortunately, we can't cover like 4 or 5 issues of Cable. But either way, this 3-part storyline is pretty cool because it's Cable going into the Microverse. But first, we gotta pick up with some S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. And so this kind of leads us into the opening pages of the storyline where we pick up with G.W. Bridges. Now for G.W., he's ahead of S.H.I.E.L.D. at the moment because around his time in Marvel Comics, if I remember correctly, Nick Fury is quote unquote dead. But either way, for G.W. Bridges, he was called up to go over to Weapon X. Now, as we all know, Weapon X gave birth to a few characters in Marvel Comics, like Wolverine, Deadpool, and Garrison Kane. Here's the thing, because right now for GW, the reason why he's here because it was online, but then out of nowhere, something happened and you have the Canadian government called over to the American government, who then called over to S.H.I.E.L.D. to have S.H.I.E.L.D. see what exactly happened. And they realized all the different files that were kept there are completely gone. But on top of that, the entire place is completely wrecked. It seems like the scientists, the patients, anything or anybody else that was inside this place just went mad and crazy. And so as we do switch over to Cable and Domino, we have to remember that around this time in Marvel Comics, this is post-Onslaught. And the reason why I'm saying that because the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, they're quote-unquote dead, but in reality, they're in a different reality, better known as Heroes Reborn. But for the sake of the world, they believe those heroes died back in the Onslaught event. And matter of fact, thanks to Onslaught, this mutant attack that happened in New York, right now, the relations between mutants and humans have hit an all-time low. And so right now, you have the mutants kind of being scared of doing anything around humans. But you have Cable and Domino kind of realize that people's emotions in this area kind of hit an all-time high. They're all over the place. Now for Cable, he kind of believes that this must be the outcome of, Onslaught. But in reality, it's something else completely different. But either way, you didn't have our 2 characters arrive at this broken down building because apparently they're supposed to meet somebody here at this broken down building. And that would be Garrison Kane. Now, when it comes to Garrison Kane, he actually appeared earlier on our coverage over Cable and X-Force. You see, for Garrison, he was part of the second version of Weapon X alongside with Deadpool because he got badly injured by Strife, and so you had Weapon X give him cybernetic body parts. Now, he lost those parts. When it came to Cable, he took Garrison into the future and gave Garrison future tech to replace missing body parts that were cybernetic. But either way, for Garrison, at this point in time, he was dating Copycat. Now, we met Copycat a long time ago in our coverage over the X-Men. You see, for Copycat, she had pretended to be Domino for 1 entire year in Marvel's timeline. And the real Domino was being kept hostage by Tyler Dayspring, Cable's son. And so in that short period of time, Cable and a few other members of X-Force got really close to Copycat. But either way, there's a lot of bad blood between Copycat and also Domino because, well, she did replace Domino. But Copycat and Garrison are dating. Now, for Garrison, the reason why he called Cable here because at this point in time, Garrison and also Copycat Vanessa, they were trying their best to live a peaceful life away from the idea of being mercenaries. But somebody found out that they were mutants. Somebody found out where they were at and tore down the entire place that they were staying at. And so this is Garrison asking Cable to figure out who in the world found out they were mutants but also trashed their home. Now, once you have Cable find out that Garrison does plan on retiring as a mercenary, or really tired of the idea of trying to make the world a better place, Cable gets very upset. And the reason why, because Garrison saw the future, thanks to Cable. And so for Cable, what he's trying to tell Garrison right now is that you can't just give up. And the reason why, because you saw the future. You saw that you have no idea which event could possibly lead into that future. So you giving up could possibly change that future right there. Now, again, for Garrison, he does not care. Right now, he wants a peaceful life with Copycat, and that's really it. Now, for Domino and Copycat, their emotions begin to go a tad bit crazy. Like they're mad at each other. Now, technically they are, but they're really angry. And you do have the two ladies begin to fight against each other all around the building, inside and outside as well. But for Garrison Kane, out of nowhere, he's hit with a huge amount of fear. Now, for Cable, he realized there's somebody else in the building right now being able to play with the emotions of different people. And that would be the Psycho Man. Now, the Psycho Man is usually a Fantastic Four villain. But of course, with them no longer being around and being in the Heroes Reborn reality, well, for Psycho Man, he now has free range. And so it's him right now going after Garrison Kane. And the reason why? Because Garrison's future tech that was given to him by Cable when Cable took Garrison into the far future. Now, for Cable and Domino, when they do get back inside, they realize that, well, Psycho Man was able to grab Garrison Kane. And so you have Psycho Man about to leave with Garrison. Now, for Cable and Domino, they don't really know much about Psycho Man. All they know is that he has a device that allows him to play with people's emotions, but also he's from the Microverse. And so, of course, he disappears just like that. Now, for our heroes, when they go back outside, they see this crazy spaceship that was sent from the Microverse to take our heroes, shrink them down in size to take them into the Microverse. The thing is, when they turn around, they see Garrison Kane. Now, earlier, we saw that Psycho Man had grabbed Garrison, right? That was not Garrison. Of course, that would be Copycat, his girlfriend, who had the ability to shapeshift. And so she was taken by Psycho Man when she learned what Psycho Man wanted, Garrison Kane. And so now for Cable, Domino, and Garrison, they have to get on a spaceship and go into the Microverse. And so as we dive into the next chapter, we're really picking up with Domino, Cable, and also Garrison Kane in this spacecraft just heading into the Microverse. Now, when they do arrive, they are instantly attacked by the forces of Psycho Man. Now, for Cable, he tries his best to pilot the actual spacecraft and use it against the enemies that work for, well, Psycho Man. Now, for Domino, she does step in. And I kind of like this because when it comes to Domino, I kind of realized this. In our coverage over the X-Men, they didn't really mention a lot when it came to Domino's powers. Like, just out of nowhere, we learned that one day she has the powers of luck. For the most part, for Domino, we had no idea for a good while. And so in this storyline right here, it's them kind of telling us like, hey, you know how my power works. I have good luck on my side. Now, luckily for our heroes, they were saved by another group of characters. And that would be Ran, Mari, and also Bug, better known as the Micronauts. Now, the Micronauts, of course, astronauts in the Microverse, they're the ones who sent the spacecraft into, well, the Macroverse to get some help. Now, these guys usually team up with the Fantastic Four and occasionally other characters as well, like the X-Men. Now, they never met Cable, Domino, nor had they met Garrison Kane. I almost called him a different name there. But either way, when they see the X symbols on Cable and Domino, they know they're part of the X family. But you do have the entire party kind of agree to work together to find the Psycho Man, but to also save Copycat. Now, here's the problem though, because with Garrison Kane, he's kind of a hothead at the moment. And technically, he has the right to be a hothead because his girlfriend was kidnapped by Psycho Man. And so for him, what he wants to do is get her back. And so when you have a character like Bug, who's better known as a jokester, it really does get to him. But at the same time, it's Cable saying, if you can have a cool head, you're not really helping us getting her back at the time being. Now we do switch back over to GW Bridges. Now for GW, he's currently at where Garrison Kane was staying at. Of course, with the idea of Weapon X being wrecked, he went to assign Garrison Kane. And he did find the home Garrison Kane, but what he found the place being completely wrecked. Now we know why, because, well, our heroes were fighting against, well, Psycho Man there a moment ago. And so for GW, he's kind of like, okay, I got word that Cable was here. So once again, Cable was involved in some kind of mess involving Garrison Kane, who's also involved with Weapon X. Now we do switch over to Psycho Man, and for Psycho Man, he truly does believe that currently he has, well, Garrison Kane, but in reality, he doesn't. What he has right now, who he has right now is, well, of course, Copycat. And so at first, he's kind of wondering like why he's not really able to get what he wants, which of course is the future tech that Garrison Kane wears that Cable gave him from the future Cable comes from. And then you have Psycho Man find out that, well, he don't have Garrison Kane. That in reality, he has Copycat, not Psycho Man. Psycho Man has Copycat. Now, when it comes to our heroes, you do have our heroes just rush over to where Psycho Man is truly at. Now, here's the thing. Psycho Man knows that our heroes were coming because once he had discovered that he did not have Garrison Kane, that he actually had a Copycat, he knew that sooner or later, Garrison and the rest of the crew would try to come and save her. And of course, he was correct because look who it is. It's Cable, it's Garrison, it's Domino, and also the Micronauts working together to fight against the forces of Psycho Man. Now, while you have the battle go on, you then have Psycho Man beginning to use his machine to mess with the minds of our different characters. Like, for example, when it comes to Cable, he's hit with a huge amount of basically doubting himself. And so he feels like he's no longer able to continue on to fight against Psycho Man. He feels like that everyone around him is going to die. Now, for Garrison, he does fight through the army of creatures that work for Psycho Man to get inside the facility. The problem is that you have Psycho Man also being able to hit Garrison with a huge amount of hatred. And so with that being done, it's now Garrison saying like, you know what? I fully hate Cable. It's his fault that we're in this mess at the moment. And so this leads into the final chapter where you still have the forces of Psycho Man just attacking Cable, Domino, the Micronauts, Garrison Kane. Everyone's being attacked. But you have Rand, the leader of the Micronauts, kind of realize they have to retreat because they really can't continue to fight on against the forces of Psycho Man. So of course they do retreat back. Now they leave Cable behind, but technically this works out great for our heroes. And let me explain why. Because for Cable, he kind of realized what they have to do to save Garrison Kane. So you have Cable inform Domino and the rest of the Micronauts like, hey, listen, you gotta find Copycat. Once you're able to find Copycat, we can use her to break that connection that basically Psycho Man has right now over Garrison Kane. And so for our heroes who are away right now, they tried their best to sneak back into the base of Psycho Man to hopefully find Copycat. And this kind of leads into the ending of the storyline. And honestly, it's not a bad ending because the storyline is really more like just straight up action-packed. Nothing really major for character development. And so you do have our heroes being able to sneak inside and find Copycat. Really more Domino finds Copycat while you have the Micronauts keep Psycho Man busy. Now, once she does find Copycat, you have her being able to break the connection that he has over Garrison Kane. And you didn't have Cable say, you know what, I got a game plan on how we're going to bring down the Psycho Man. And so what he does is that he connects all their minds together. And he kind of learned this trick from X-Man Nate Gray. You see, for Psycho Man, right now, he's pumping out all these raw feelings. Hatred, doubt, being scared, fear. And so for Cable, it's kind of like, okay, you know what? Let's hit him with a huge amount of love. And so with the love of Garrison Kane and Cable and Domino and also Copycat, Psycho Man cannot handle it. And so just like that, he was defeated. And with him being defeated, you didn't have our heroes being able to just go back into the Macroverse, the regular main Marvel universe. Now, this kind of leads into the ending where the next storyline is really important, but unfortunately, we can't get into that storyline because, well, it's not out there for me to read at the moment. And so you do have Garrison and Copycat go on their separate ways to live their own quiet lives, right? While they're doing that, well, back at the school of Charles Xavier, you have Moore Taggart trying to call up Cable. And the reason why, because, well, a friend of Charles is possibly in danger. Also a friend of Cable. And that would be Renee Macomb. But unfortunately, Cable and Domino are not there to hear the call from Moore Taggart. But this is where we're going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see you all next time. Later.